In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 of the official D&D 5th edition Dungeon Master screens, including the recently released Dungeon Kit, which comes with some pretty cool extras. So we'll be comparing and contrasting and hopefully giving you a pretty good feel for which DM screen might be best for you. Hi everybody, my name is Nate and you are watching WASD20, a channel about tabletop RPGs and fantasy maps. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really expect my DM screen to be the be-all and end-all everything I need at the table. I almost always keep my laptop or a smartphone handy with some online tools right at my fingertips, and one of my favorites is actually a tool that makes me sound way more prepared and polished than I actually am, and it's called Dscryb, and they happen to be the sponsor for this video. You see, this summer I was running a one-shot for some friends, and they actually wanted to go find a Speak with Dead spell, so they headed off to a swamp where I said there was a necromancer. Now, I hadn't really prepped any of this, but fortunately the writers at Dscryb had. I quickly did a search for swamp. They had several options. I picked one that was short and amazing. I looked up a description of a necromancer, and they even had a really cool, kind of evocative description of the Speak with Dead spell. So I didn't really have to stress about trying to improv something, and my players got this really rich description of this place. We could just feel like we were there. Dscryb's finely crafted boxed text includes descriptions of monsters, spells, locations, NPCs. They even have maps with rich descriptions embedded in the maps. So you'll definitely want to go check it out at dscryb.com, and if you decide to subscribe, make sure you use the coupon code for WASD20 viewers down in the video description. Thanks again to Dscryb for sponsoring this video. Alright, so here we have the 4 Dungeon Master screens and the kits in these 2 cases. But we're going to go in chronological order here, starting with the one that you pretty much can't find anymore. This is the original 5th edition Dungeon Master screen. Adventurers League ad on the inside. But I don't necessarily recommend this one. There's a reason I think they switched over to the DM screen Reincarnated. Now, first off, let's talk about the art. Just got a really cool scene of a group of adventurers surrounded by kobolds fighting a red dragon. You've got all the gold and treasure there. So yeah, just a really cool scene. I do like it. It's vibrant and colorful. Very glossy. I've got on the inside of the screen here, you've got some more art, and I think that's one of the things a lot of people didn't like about it is they felt like, hey, give me more useful stuff here. I don't just want art to look at. That's important for the outside of the screen, but for the DM, give me more tools. I think that the NPC tools proved to be not as useful as people thought maybe. One of the 4 panels is pretty much dedicated to improving NPCs. That's handy. Improv tools are handy. The name generator usually produced names that sounded really dumb, but conditions, very useful. And a lot of this stuff, very useful too, I think. Some of it definitely kind of in the improv spirit and less about just giving you quick access to rules, although there's some of that too. So anyway, that is the original Dungeon Master screen. Good luck finding that one because it's pretty much been replaced by this one right here. Now mine's in pretty rough shape. I got it from an Amazon Marketplace seller who did not take very good care of it, and I kept meaning to return it, and then I waited too long. Outside of the screen here does have a lot more branding than the other one, or the other one didn't have any branding like this right here. So, you know, I could do without that. I think I'd rather have kind of just more generic fantasy art. And overall, I think the art on this, it's cool. It's a nice dragon. It's very well done. There's a city burning below and a captive being carried away. So there's some cool stuff on this. It just seems like the side panels are a little bit blah. Lots of clouds, lots of sea. Still, I think it is totally serviceable. Now let's look at the inside of the screen. Much better use of space in terms of not just having some art. Even the little bits of art like this and this right here are useful. So I do like that size chart right there just to show scale of various sized creatures. But yeah, some of the more useful things in my opinion on this screen, definitely conditions. You always want to have conditions in my opinion. Levels of exhaustion, very good. But prices of services are something that I have found really, really useful. Something I use a lot on the DM screens that I've had that have those. Other than that, yeah, lots of useful tools and rules references. A lot more information than is on the other one. And then this one right here on the far left is pretty much dedicated to, in my opinion, stuff that would be helpful for new players. So yeah, sometimes the DM is a new player and this stuff is useful. But for me, I would almost rather have a handout of this stuff to give my players rather than for me as the DM. Still, definitely some useful basics here on this panel. So that is the Dungeon Master screen Reincarnated. Overall, I feel like the information on the inside is definitely an improvement over the original. But then we have these more recent DM screens and kits. And we'll go over this one first because I've been using it for about a year now for my online campaign, Icewind Dale Rhyme or Reason. We're coming up on a year now, session 25 this coming Monday will be 1 year. I'll put a link to that one if you want to join us live on my live channel this coming Monday, the 11th of October. So there is more than just a screen in here. We'll take a look at some of this stuff momentarily, but the screen itself, instead of having a very glossy finish, is much more matte. And it's got this kind of wide, sprawling landscape, and I really like it. It's got a variety of different terrain types. Lots of dragons and other creatures, a kraken right there it looks like, some kind of ruined castle. And on the inside here, definitely a lot of very handy tools for the Dungeon Master. Personally, I don't use this too much, but I definitely do use the conditions quite a bit, that exhaustion again, and some stuff appropriate for travel, wilderness travel, like weather, travel pace, encounter distance, wilderness navigation, things like that, foraging DCs. So I've definitely used some of this stuff for Icewind Dale. Extreme cold, that's one definitely. And very importantly, once again, the price of food, drink, and lodging and various services, super important for me. So yeah, definitely lots of useful stuff if you do a lot of travel in your campaign or wilderness encounters. And then you've also got some handy tools in here. Now, let's see what we've got. First off, you got some hex maps. So if you want to do a hex crawl, I've never done that. You could make your own little hex crawl on these dry and wet erasable mats here. But on the other side of one of them, there is this reference sheet for actions in combat. And this is something I really love. Again, just to pass out at the table, especially if you have new players and say, here you go, guys. This is just a reminder of some of the things you can do on your turn. So yeah, really love this thing. Haven't got a chance to use it because I've been playing games online so much, but there it is. Then you've also got these cards that come in here and a little box for the cards, which you can see I have not used. But the cards do cover the various conditions. So if you have a player who has a condition, you can actually pull that card. You can hand it to them so that they are in the know about what that condition means for their character. Then you've also got these initiative cards. So if you do want to have your players roll for initiative, and then you can hand them a card corresponding with their order in combat, that's also a handy thing. Personally, I tend to use little initiative tents that I put across my DM screen in a certain order. I prefer that method over this, but some people might like that method. You've also got some other rules references in here, which are really handy. These are, again, nice laminated card stock. Wilderness chases. I've only got a chance to use this once, but I do think the rules are a handy tool and an improvement over other things I've seen. And then we've got this bit about wilderness journeys, which I have not got a chance to use so much, but I do like the look of this. Some handy improv tools here and planning tools for the Dungeon Master in terms of monuments, weird locales, types of encounters, and things like that. And then you've got a supply tracker. So this is not really the style of game that I run, but if you did want to run a more wilderness survival themed campaign and actually have your players keep track of their supplies, this is really useful. On the backside, another hex map. Sure, when we don't know what to do with a space, let's throw another hex map on it. That seems to be the theme of the wilderness kit. So anyway, I really do like it. I think it's a solid product and I recommend it. But now the Dungeon Master Screen Dungeon Kit just came out a couple weeks ago. And let's take a look. It's going to be pretty similar to the wilderness kit in a lot of ways. The actual screen I really like, but you can see the adventure party entering. Looks like some hook horrors there, some kind of gem dragon. And then you've got this scene over here, kind of a Mines of Moria sort of door over there. Really cool. And then on the far panel, you've got this blue dragon overlooking what looks like a ruined city or some kind of high elven city. I can't really tell. So overall, I really do dig the art on this screen. On the inside of the screen, I think this side is pretty much identical to what's on the Wilderness kit, as is this, and this, and this. But we do get some new stuff here. Some tools for randomly generating dungeon areas, like this State of Ruin table, the Dungeon Encounters table, dungeon chambers, so you come across a room. What sort of room is it? Let's roll for that. A lot of this stuff I do believe is in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but it's nice to have it on this screen. Information on travel pace, cover, light, some other information here. All of this stuff, I think, is also on the Wilderness kit. So this is the main area of difference right here, getting rid of some of the travel and wilderness rules and putting in some of these dungeon tools here. Honestly, in my opinion, it's not a huge improvement. And even though I do run a lot of dungeons, I tend to favor the Wilderness kit information. All right. I actually do like that stuff better. I'm not usually improving my dungeons on the spot, and a lot of these tools, you know, I have other ways of generating this stuff. So that's just me personally. I feel like I tend to need more wilderness and travel rules at my fingertips, more so than dungeon building stuff at my fingertips. However, there's also some different stuff in the kit here, and that is appreciated. This right here is the same. We get this actions in combat. And then instead of the hex map, we get a grid map. This says that it can be used to sketch out a dungeon map, and you can use percentile dice to randomly place encounters, treasure, or features on the map. You could also let players use this to kind of map out the dungeon as you describe it. Personally, I don't think I'd ever use this, but I do like these dungeon geomorphs. These are kind of cool. You can actually rip these cards out, and you essentially have a little dungeon on a card that you can link up with other cards. And you can see they all have that line across the middle of each side. So you really could do that here. And there's another one. And there's another one. And yet another one. So yeah, in total there are 36 Dungeon Geomorph cards. And I really like the idea of these. Will I ever actually use them? I'm not sure, but I like the idea of them, and I could definitely see myself using them to randomly generate some dungeons in advance using some of the tools on the screen. We've also got some similar initiative tracking cards with art from the Dungeon Master's screen. And we've got our condition cards as well, so those are very handy in addition. And then lastly, you've got this box. So you don't get quite as much by way of rules references and DM tools on a nice laminated sheet. Really all you have is this, but you do get a lot of those cards. And that's an interesting idea that I can appreciate. So both of the kits do come with a pretty solid Dungeon Master screen that's not too different from the Dungeon Master screen Reincarnated, and a bunch of other tools in a nice little folder. So that's another bonus, is you do get a nice little folder. You can actually close that up and put it on the shelf, and it fits there quite nicely. So for me personally, I would say my favorite of these is the Wilderness kit. If you're on a really tight budget, you will save $5 or so by just getting the Dungeon Master screen Reincarnated versus one of these kits. But I do think these kits come with some useful tools, and personally I do like the art on the screens better, which to me is a really big factor actually. In general, you can find this one for $10 to $15. And I believe these are, going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 to $25 each in general. Now, I'll also give a plug for a couple of other cool products. If you're looking for a fine woodcraft DM screen, I highly recommend you check out Dogmite. They make the Valhalla screen, and they're amazing. They're so nice. There's a huge variety, and I'm actually working with them right now on a screen featuring one of my maps. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'll be sharing info very soon. I am blown away by what they're doing with my work. So yeah, I can't wait to show you guys. I have one of Dogmite's screens right now, and I really love it. They're not cheap, but they just look amazing. It's just really like a beautiful piece of furniture at my table, and I absolutely love it. I'll also give a plug for some of the customizable Dungeon Master screens out there. There are a couple of those that you can get on Amazon or at your local game shop, and customizing your own screen is often a really good way to go, because what I find is with any of these that I'm using, there's just going to be things that I personally don't find very useful, and things that I feel like could be more useful that could be added to here. So that's the beauty of customization. I do customize my Dogmite screen using magnets. I can actually clip up anything I want in there, and that's awesome. Lastly, I'll also mention that if you're running a specific adventure, there are actually DM screens produced by Gale Force 9, I believe, for each of the major D&D 5th edition official published adventures. So those are worth checking out too. But anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you have a Dungeon Master screen you really love? Which one do you think has served you the best over the years? Definitely leave your thoughts down in the comments below. I also do have some links to any products mentioned in this video down in the description. Any of the Amazon links you see there are affiliate links, and I do get a small commission at no extra cost to you. Before we go, I do want to thank the WASD20 patrons. Patrons are people who support the channel on a monthly basis, and they get some pretty cool rewards. Things like weekly live map drawing streams with me, and campaign diaries for my Icewind Dale D&D campaign. So if you want to join with these amazing people in support of the channel, head on over to patreon.com/WASD20. All right, thanks everybody. Take care. You'll see me again very soon.